Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're going to be going over gaming news consolidated. This is May 11th through the 17th, and the whole idea for this podcast once a week is to go over news, articles, watch videos, and put it all in one place for you. And so, yeah, this week we got a little bit more information about Mafia, the old country. We're going to have a short update about Kingmakers. We're also going to talk about Warner Brothers' earnings call, which I which I thought was just interesting. We're also going to talk about Starfield and the modders over there, which is not good news. We're also going to talk about Giant Bomb. We talked about them last week. Also, Moon Studios. You know they make the they make the Rise series. We're also going to have a little bit on Apex Legends. We're of course going to talk about Marathon. That was very big this week. We're also going to give an update with the Arrowhead creators of Helldivers 2. We're going to talk about Valve and the leak that they had for Steam, also Microsoft's layoffs, and then also Haven Studios that's working on Fair Games. So, thanks for tuning in. You can always like, sub, all that jazz. But hey, let's go ahead and get into the news. So, Mafia, the old country. This will be a smaller, more linear type of game. This isn't going to be like open world. Now, Mafia 3, they know, wasn't received very well. So they understand that. So they're kind of trying to go back to their roots, making a smaller game that's also probably less risk at this point, and trying to go back to their storytelling. They really emphasized that in their last dev video that they had, is trying to focus on the storytelling and have a immersive emotional experience for the player and have the player feel good about the experience as a whole. So it will be $50, so this probably indicates that it is going to be a smaller game. Again, it's not this open world type of style GTA, whatever, like Mafia 3 was. So yeah, smaller game, smaller price. This also won't be like Assassin's Creed Shadows in gameplay. This will probably be a little bit narrower in scope. Of course, not just for the world, but probably also like the weapons and tools as well. Again, everything is likely to be smaller because yeah, this will be a $50 game, which I think a lot of people are going to be excited for. That's going to be an easier price point to swallow than like 70 or like the $80 that we're going to be enjoying later this year from Nintendo and Xbox so far. But yeah, I'm sure other devs are going to do it too, along with Sony as well at some point. I'd be very shocked if they didn't. But yeah, the gameplay trailer, it actually shows vehicles, it shows horses on the level, and, you know, for travel. But this looks kind of like more mission setting based type of stuff. Maybe like the Godfather video game if you played that back in the day, which had a level of openness, but it wasn't like this massive open world like before. So, and there were certain areas or sections too that the game had that you could like roam in or like play the level in. So yeah, I kind of imagine it'll be a little bit more like that. And yeah, this isn't too much. Honestly, yeah, if there isn't too much going on for the channel, I'll actually take a look at it. I've enjoyed the Mafia games so far for the most part. Though, yeah, I have to say I have not played 3. But, like, Mafia 1 was really, really good. And, yeah, I enjoyed 2. But, yeah, I haven't played 3 yet. But, yeah, with $50, or if I don't have too much else going on, yeah, I could probably swing that for the channel. And, yeah, this will be coming August 8th. I still do have the Chronos channel for the review, so thank you guys too for voting. But yeah, we're just waiting for a release date actually for Chronos, the new Dawn, and then I'll be taking a look at that when we actually get that. Let's get an update for Kingmakers. So basically, we're getting toward the end of the month for May, and we still don't actually have a release date for Kingmakers itself. We also don't have any narrowed kind of down scope. It's still like Q2 of 2025. I have a feeling they're actually going to miss this window, or this is going to have to be June maybe. But yeah, they've just had trouble rolling out this game. But yeah, as soon as it's out, I really actually want to play this because if you don't know anything about it, it's basically like you with modern day weapons and equipment, including vehicles and the like, battling in medieval times. And 2, there's also like a mode where you can switch out and you can have these different kind of units, like Supreme Commander, Command and Conquer. You can think of it like that. And you're able to dictate where those units go or where those groups go of different soldiers and whatever, and trying to work on actually winning this battle. So we don't know the entire story. Excuse me. We do know there's a level of futuristic stuff. You're like a time traveler of some sorts, trying to change history or something like that. And yeah, that does look actually pretty interesting. The game too also has co-op. We don't know if that's actually going to be at release, but yeah, we still don't have a release date for this. But and this too is only available for PC. This is not for consoles. Yeah, hopefully we can get this game. It just really looks like something that's more of a passion project. Just something that's just more fun and just exciting to experience. Let's talk about Warner Brothers. So they had their earnings call, and they basically throw Suicide Squad under the bus. They basically blame the game for closing Monolith Studios. They also blame the game for canceling the Wonder Woman game, and probably too also the multiverse. I didn't listen to the entire thing, but that also was, of course, a DC game for them. And yeah, multiverse didn't do well either. Even after being gone a year and coming back, just the launch was bad. The game was actually worse. There were more microtransaction stuff in the way for multiverse, and again, that was just another failed project on their part. Cost them about another $100 million just for that. And then yeah, Suicide Squad was like another 200 million. So yeah, basically, the thing that's pretty frustrating with Suicide Squad is while it wasn't a great game, it was Warner Brothers that actually went to Rocksteady multiple times, to the head of the studio, and he did eventually leave before the game launched and formed 100 Star. So I'm curious, and a lot of devs and directors, I guess, actually went over there too. Don't know exactly how many, but I know some did. And 100 Star's idea is having a consolidation of about 100 devs that have talent and experience and can bring that to the table to make a game. Instead of having hundreds working on a project, instead of having contractors and all of this stuff, so many hands and feet moving around trying to make a video game, they just want a more streamlined process of 100 devs. So I am curious to see what they'll do with that. But yeah, it was Warner Brothers that came multiple times to the founder of Rocksteady and was like, hey, we want you to make this live service game. And multiple times he said no until at the last pitch, of course, he finally said yes. And so it's not like the founder was like, oh, yeah, let's make live service, even though they'd made the back of Arkham Knight games and all that stuff. But to completely throw Suicide Squad and also Rocksteady basically under the bus for the future failures of Monolith Studios, which was not going well. Okay, they were making the Wonder Woman game. We got to see this, 3 years ago, and then we didn't have anything. And it's like, look, Rocksteady didn't have anything to do with Monolith actually trying to make their game. And while the reputation of, quote, Warner Brothers is tainted by both studios, it just goes to show, too, that those studios, they're not the same. They're not the same studio. Now, Rocksteady is still alive and well. They're making I think they're making another Batman game, and it'll be more story focused, which is what they should have done in the first place. And I'm totally okay with studios trying something new, studios kind of branching out a little bit, but it's like if you've never done something before, you need to actually have coupled with you, someone that has before, instead of just kind of going off on your own and making this game because it's like live service versus story driven versus single player and multiplayer versus, linear world versus open world. I'm sure those are all very different types and styles, and there's things you have to know, and there's things that you learn from building those different experiences for a player base. But yeah, to completely go out and try something new, and we've seen this repeatedly, under PlayStation, under Xbox, under third-party studios. It's just like, look, they have to try something new because there's not enough money coming in from what they have been doing, and the studio just again doesn't know what they're doing, or the leadership is generally bad, or two, there's just conflict too within the studio versus the parent company. There's also issues too with the publisher. There's also issues too with the studio or the devs not feeling supported like they should be. And then, too, part of it is also they don't have the experience to make these types of games sometimes. And so it's a myriad of stuff. It's not just one particular thing in most cases. But, gal, like, you shouldn't just be like, oh, yeah, try something else completely different. Go do it, have fun. And I feel like the reins are a little too loose sometimes for these studios because we've gotten to see that with quite a few games. And that's why a lot of these AAA games almost, and like heavy double A's even, kind of feel mediocre and don't really get anywhere. And there's enough games now coming out where some of these games just completely fly under the radar, even from, a certain pedigree of studio that they're coming from. And it really doesn't seem to matter. And it's just failure after failure after failure after failure, and it's exhausting. I mean, it's not just for the player base. It's also for the devs too. And it's also for the publisher. I mean, they're there to make money, of course, more than anything else. They don't really care what game it is. They just want to make the cash. But the devs, they actually, probably put some passion into their project. And when they don't feel like they have control over that, or things are going a different way, like in this case, Suicide Squad, or even the Wonder Woman game under Warner Brothers, it is just not going very well. And then when you're losing hundreds of millions in a 12-month period, or it's coming out basically in a 12-month period that you've been losing hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, you can't keep doing that. So yeah, we'll see what 100 Star does. We'll see what Rocksteady does. But man, lately a lot of these studios that we've seen this decade, they're man, they're just not the same. And we'll get into that with Bungie too. But yeah, there's been a lot of studios that just, yeah, they're not the same, even though they're still going. But yeah, they've damaged their reputation, or they've completely closed by now. And it's just, AAA gaming has just been a mess. Let's talk about Starfield. So the community patch modders, unfortunately, they're basically kind of quitting their project. And some of the people working on the project, they're volunteering, by the way. None of this is paid. They're becoming disenchanted with the game. And a big thing is just because it's so boring for them. Okay, there's so much they got to add. There's so much they got to build. There's not a lot really for them to play off of. And it's kind of like, you have a canvas and they're used to having a scene to build in. And this time it's just a blank canvas. That's what it's feeling like to these guys, is that there's just not a lot going on there. There's a lot of work that they got to put in. And then, too, the player base also isn't there either. And they're just getting exhausted. It's awful. And so, yeah, playing even the remaster, or playing the Oblivion remaster, it really shows like Oblivion is on a whole nother level than what Starfield is, and it's so fun. I mean, the world is full. The devs are like, or the devs were a smaller team back then. They could get some stuff done. I mean, there were things that you could do that you can't do in video games today because it's not seen as proper or whatever. Like set your dog on fire, or enchant NPCs to go kill each other. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, you can basically do whatever you want. And then you have the entire push 2 of the Daedra, which those Oblivion gates, they do get tedious after a while. Once you've basically done, one or two of them, you've pretty much done them all at that point. And it just kind of becomes like a slogfest to get all of those gates closed. But there is a lot of content in the game. And the DLCs are great too, which is wonderful. And all of that's included in the remaster. And then, yeah, you see Starfield. You see that first DLC that they released, and it's just like, what the heck is this? Like, it's totally just a different feel to it. It's more clanky. It's more corporate. It's less passionate. And while some of the mechanics are really cool, again, it's just a game that really doesn't seem to mesh together very well. And Oblivion Remaster, it sold really well. And Starfield, it also sold really, really well. Skyrim, too, has had like 5 different iterations to itself. And I wonder if they'll remaster it again now that they've done Oblivion. Same, too, with the Fallout series. Fallout 3, Fallout 4. Fallout 76 has been a success, but it's taken them, 2-3 years to actually fix the game. New Vegas 2, done by Obsidian, again, was another really good game, probably the favorites for many. And again, you can just see the passion in those projects. And yeah, while you feel Starfield, like, it's okay. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Like, it ran pretty well. They fixed some things. They've also added some things that they said they wouldn't, like a buggy or like a vehicle to be able to drive around in. Uh, but man, just the feel of a Bethesda game just wasn't there for me in Starfield. And, it's getting tough for these modders too. We've had multiple groups already quit projects, and this is just another one. And they're like, look, people are quitting. And if we can't get enough people to actually fill in some of these positions, we might just have to sunset this whole thing or just give it to somebody else. See if they want to take it over. Some other group. So yeah, this is really just kind of crazy. And let me show you. I actually didn't pull this up in time. Let me show you Steam DB here. And let's take a look at Starfield. And today's a Saturday. This is a Sunday morning. So yeah, there's 3,000 in the game. It's got a review score of 56 out of 165,000 reviews. And this is the chart that we have. Let's look over the last year. I mean, yeah, it's just crazy. And then when we go to max, I mean, this is when it launched, 330,000. Huge, right? Massive. And they did sell millions of copies. But look how quickly it fell off. I mean, we're just looking at 6 weeks. And we're down to like 40,000 players. That's horrific. And then we had the DLC, which again, we basically doubled our player count up to almost 22,000. And it is just extremely died off after that. Like, there's nothing. We're at a point now where our peak is under 5,000 players. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. If we take a look at the Oblivion Remastered here, there's almost 28,000 in the game right now, and it's got a score of 80 out of 48,000 reviews. And again, this of course didn't have like a huge massive launch. This still had a launch of 216,000. But like on my friends list too, just anecdotally, I see my friends playing on that, just having a good time. I find myself going back to when I got half an hour to burn or an hour to burn on something else, or I need a break from doing channel stuff. And like, we're definitely already having mods for this. There's already people like making mods for the Oblivion Remastered, fixing some of the bugs, adding some different modes and some different things to the game. Okay, just like Skyrim. And let's actually take a look at Skyrim. We'll do the special edition. So again, this is 26,000 players right now. 91% out of 335,000 reviews. And this again is like kind of like another remaster type of style. And if we do max, I mean, holy smokes. It wasn't like a huge amount of players, but as you can see, over the entire time period, they've actually been going up in players. So their big spikes here are, 70,000, 65,000. So yeah, it's not like a huge success, but like this player base is invested in the game, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at the original. I'm just curious. So there's 2,000 in the game. Again, this has 93.9% for a review score. This is, again, 317,000 reviews. And if we take a look at max, yeah, this is the original, 287,000. Now, it's fallen off a lot over that time. we're basically looking at roughly 8 months. It fell off a lot, and it's fallen off to just about zero now since 2012. But they all moved to the special edition or some of the other editions, and like that's where their player base is staying. That's where it's healthy. And it's just crazy to me. It's like Bethesda games have a really good uh they have a really good pedigree, but like with Starfield it really made people lose a lot of faith and some of that trust. And boy, Bethesda really has to be careful with that. So they've bought some goodwill with Oblivion Remastered. Okay, looks like too we're going to be able to get excuse me. Looks like too we'll be able to get the let's see, which one was it? Fallout 3, I think it was. Yeah. I think it's the Fallout 3 that we'll be able to see as a remaster as well. And man, I'm honestly super excited too for that one. But Bethesda has to be careful here because they are a bigger company. They have way more devs than they used to back in the day to make some of these bigger projects. And of course, that's fine. Hold on, folks. We had a ton of cops in front of our house. We had 5 police cars out there. But yeah, it's really getting pretty frustrating ultimately. But yeah, Bethesda, they ultimately do have to be careful. And it has me worried for Elder Scrolls 6 as well. I still think some people are going to buy it, but I think at this point, especially at $80, people are going to wait. Wait to see actually what it is, see what's up, see how they're dealing with stuff. But yeah, when you have your modders, people that have invested so heavily, and like some of these teams from modders, they've also made mods for their Bethesda games for a long time, probably going back to Fallout 3, some of them. And I hope it's a wake-up call for Bethesda. And I hope, too, that Todd Howard has his hands in the pie more for Elder Scrolls 6, because I think he was busy making Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And so Bethesda was kind of like taking over that. And a lot of people blame Todd. But I don't think he was as involved or engaged as we think he was. And maybe, too, he's just defending his team, a little bit, and that's totally okay. And maybe he has faith in his current team that he has. But yeah, I definitely think they need to wake up a little bit and not fight their audience so much. And understand that with the numbers, like maybe their audience is a little different. Maybe some of their audience has moved on too. And so to actually bring players back and draw them back in, not just with Oblivion Remastered, right, or some other remasters, but like to really study the games that they've made and try to work on bringing that back because they have to build it. But yeah, Starfield was not it. I've never gone back after actually my initial like 40-hour playthrough that I did for the channel until I did my review. But like, yeah, the game's boring. I really think it should have been about the war, and I think that's what we should have in Elder Scrolls 6. I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying Bethesda can't do it without warfare. Because you take a look at Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Oblivion, Skyrim, there's warfare going on constantly. Even Fallout 76, even New Vegas. Okay, there's tension there. There's pressure going on. There's things that you do that you know are going to affect the world for everybody else. And Starfield just doesn't have that. That's why it's boring. And so if they can implement that or hand it over to someone else and have them do it, that's great. And again, they don't necessarily have to put conflict in there. But if there isn't conflict in there, what is the whole purpose of what you're doing? If it's just to collect artifacts and further exploration, okay, there's already games for that. But looking at Bethesda games, that's not what we buy their games for. And maybe some other people would like to see something else. Well, we did get something else. We got Starfield, and some people really enjoy Starfield, and that's totally okay. I think the wanderlust of Starfield is portrayed really, really well. It's an extremely beautiful game. Okay, there's something fun about building your own outpost and walking out, seeing a massive planet with rings around it. It's cool. Like, there's some really cool stuff in that game, but you know, that doesn't keep the game alive, unfortunately. So hopefully, yeah, they can figure that out. Yeah, it's a little bit longer than I was anticipating, but oh well. Oh well. The channel's imperfect, folks. Okay, let's talk about Giant Bomb. So we actually talked about this last week. And Giant Bomb News, we found out that they were going independent, that Fandom has basically sold over Giant Bomb to Jeff Grubb and Jeff Bickler. And in an advertisement, this was very interesting. Giant Bomb puts it so plainly that they need our money. And I mean, quote, "We want your money, we need your money, give us your money," end quote. I'm not even kidding. That's literally in part of the advertisement that they have. And it sounds desperate. It really kind of just hits folks in the face, and maybe even them too, that maybe now things are a little more real, that things are a little bit more like reality is setting in, that it's like, oh, the buck stops with you guys. Like, you guys either make it work or it's over. Okay, there's no safety net anymore. Like, you guys need to actually produce this. And that's part of the risk. That's part of the trade-off. Okay, they get 100% of the proceeds now. They're not sharing it or splitting it with anyone else, but they don't have that safety net or cushion anymore. Okay, they are it. And running your own small business is a brutal business. It's incredibly difficult, and it too can also just take one thing to just completely sink what you're doing, and to completely end it all. So, yeah, it's interesting. I am curious though what they really plan on doing, what they plan on bringing to the table, because Giant Bomb is already having financial issues under Fandom, which is why some of these changes were going on in the first place. And now that they've basically bought it and taken it over themselves, what else are they going to bring to the table to get viewers to come back in besides being independent? We'll see here in a little bit that, yeah, that's helping them out, but what's going to make them succeed now? Okay. The stuff they were doing, the content they were doing, it wasn't really bringing people in. Okay. They're consumer based, basically. And that's when it was free. And now they're actually asking for subscriptions plus whatever revenues they can make through their channels and socials and all of that stuff. So let's actually take a look. Right here, as you can see, they have 243,000. As of writing this, they had 241,000 subs. Now they have 243, so they've gained a couple thousand. Congratulations to them. But as you can see, if we go back, it's like, this is about a month. Let's go back a couple of months. So most of these videos aren't hitting too much. 11,000, 13, 3.4, 6.5, 8.7, 4, 5, 4, 3, 3, 8, 3, 12, 9, 3, 7. There's just not a lot there, right? There's not a ton of people actually engaging with their content. Now, since they've taken over, like a quick look at Doom, 29,000. That's really, really good. Also, PAX East was 12,000. That was definitely better. And then Death Stranding 2, 4.5. Voicemail, Dump Truck, 7.5. Quick look at Capcom Fighting Collection, 12,000. So they are having some more views. Okay, they are pulling in more than they normally did, and we'll see after a few days if they're really getting some of this. But this too is getting pretty interesting for them, because this is Social Blade on their channel. And we are seeing that they are definitely getting subscribers. Okay, over the last week, they've gotten basically 5,000 subscribers to their channel. And so, yeah, they're working on building that back up. And we've also seen that their average views have also increased just over the last 2 weeks. So normally, for those of you that can't see, they had 16,000, 22, 14, 15, somewhere in there. And now they're getting, since they've gone independent, 60, 67, 59, 39, 51, and then today so far is 13,000 views. So they are having more views for their channel. Still, their estimated yearly earnings, which if this keeps up, they'll definitely earn more with the subscribers and the views. But yeah, yearly earnings is still like just under $30,000. Like that's not enough. What they really are going to need is a massive amount of subscribers that actually want to pay for their content. And they have two. They have one that's $10, and they have another one for like 100 for the year. And man, there's 5 of them there at the company, at the studio, and then they still got to run whatever type of building they have, whatever type of office they have, whatever else is needed for the company. They still have to pay for all of that. But even just thinking of salaries of 50K each for 5 people, that's 250,000, and they're not even close to that. So I can definitely see them doing some sponsorships, them doing some other stuff, and ultimately we'll have to see what happens. But boy, this is going to be really tough for them. So good on them for actually trying to go independent, taking the risk. But it would kind of be like if Polygon went indie or went private, and again, they didn't really have any viewers. Some of their viewers are coming back. They are getting more subscribers, but are they going to be able to keep going? That's the tough thing about business. Is it's all about your reputation. It's all about what you can bring to the table, and especially if you're wanting people to actually pay for what you're giving them, you need to be given something a little bit more than what you were doing when it was free. Because some people will give you charity. Some people will do it out of the kindness of your heart, and some people too will support you simply because they've been with you a long time and they appreciate what you're doing. But again, you ultimately have to perform for your viewer base. Otherwise, most of them aren't going to care, and that's not going to sustain you as a company. So yeah, they've definitely put some risk on the table. We don't know how much they're in debt for this, but you can tell even with just their first podcast of taking over Giant Bomb and going independent that they're kind of nervous about this, that this is kind of real. But they're just like, yeah, we're just going to shove content out there and people are just going to enjoy it and eat it up. And it's like, well, we'll see. Might need to be a little bit more purposeful than that. But we'll see. Now, like for my channel, I'm not relying on any financial stuff for this channel. My goal isn't ever, honestly. I just enjoy bringing the news and trying to inform you guys, bring you playthroughs, initial looks, reviews on stuff, and do some deep dives. And I really enjoy doing this. But again, I understand too that it's also free, so I'm not like breaking my back over this. I'm not trying to make this my job. I have a job working somewhere else, and I'm happy with that. And I just enjoy the channel for what it is, and also for you guys watching and listening. But man, to go fully independent and to do it on your own, most people try, but most people don't succeed either. It's going to be very, very tough for them. So yeah, we'll have to see how that works out. Let's talk about Moon Studio. So they're the ones that make the RI series, like Willow and the Wisp, right? And they put out their next game, No Rest for the Wicked, on Steam on early access, and it has a mixed score so far. Founder says that basically, if you want to see us actually finish the game, it's detrimental that we get the review score back up. So let's actually take a look at this, because this is interesting too. It's impressive. So yeah, we're looking at 5,500 basically in the game. When let's see, that's price history. Let's take a look at charts. So yeah, they've had a pretty good boost earlier this month. Again, 16,000. They also had a launch quite some time ago, back in May of 2024. They had like a peak of 36,000 players, but that quickly dropped off. And yeah, they had their other peak of 16,000. And yeah, their review score is up. It's 76 now instead of mixed. It's got 48,000 reviews. Excuse me. But yeah, the thing that I thought was really interesting in bringing up this story is that basically they were saying, hey, if you don't bring the score up, like our game's going to die and the studio's going to be over. Which was kind of maybe a little bit hyperbole. And it was later that the founder clarified uh, that, there's no immediate financial danger for the studio because people were like, good grief, your studio actually going to close? And his comment was he said basically that his comment was to push back at politically motivated reviews. Um, but ultimately, this isn't helpful. Like, it also doesn't make him look good. And I'm kind of curious if this is going to backfire on him. Because again, this is an early access game. It does have the reviews that he wanted at this point. Roughly within a week, and and he's got some player base there, but it's not a ton. Like we're looking at the weekend, and yeah, there's just not a ton there compared to actually where it's been. And while you should be transparent with your player base, okay, you shouldn't be taking it to the extreme. Okay, trying to fight back at the minority that doesn't like your game or is politically motivated, or I mean, whatever the case. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative, doesn't really matter to me. We have all of our beliefs and things that we like and have our preferences, and we all vote with our money, and we should. Okay, that's what makes an open economy. That's capitalism. Um, it gives us all choice, and but to basically say, hey, we're going to shut down when that's really not the case. That like you're misleading your audience, and that's not something that anybody would really should be doing. And I was thinking too that it's like, okay, if what's exactly going on here. We found out that the founder of Moon Studios, they actually bought the rights of No Rest for the Wicked at quote enormous risk. And so it's like, okay, well, if you put all of your eggs in one basket, that is risky, but it's like that's not the customer's problem. Okay, you really actually got to make a good product. You got to release that product. You got to support it. Okay, it's just like Giant Bomb going independent. Like they need to buckle down and actually take things seriously now because it's like they are absolutely invested in it and they could lose everything. And same with Moon Studio. This is what going independent means. This is what self-published means. This is what buying the rights means. Okay, it's like you are putting all of your eggs in one basket. You are taking massive risk. And if you find out that you didn't want to do that, maybe you made the wrong choice. Maybe you shouldn't have done it that way. Maybe you weren't ready, even emotionally. Maybe you just weren't emotionally ready to take on that stress. Because I can't imagine. Okay, I just did stuff out of my garage. That was stressful enough. Knowing that working on vehicles, working on electronics, and messing something up that could cost me hundreds or even thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And then I'm done, right? Like, basically, I go into debt, pay for that, and that's that. And I was up front with my customers about that. Uh, but yeah, I understand that I got to pay for damages if I create them. And again, if you buy the publishing rights to a to a brand or a name or an IP, you're on the line for it. And yeah, it's just really interesting that the founder was saying that. All right, let's take a look at Apex. So we also got an earnings call from EA, and Apex is really waning. We got to hear during the earnings call that there's been some drop in the revenue, of course, but we're also seeing the expectations for the game is that there's another additional negative 40% to revenue for next year for fiscal year 2026 compared to this year. And also, PlayStation Time Trackers shows that it's still number 12 out of 100 in the last 30 days. So there's still a lot of people playing it. It's not in the top 10 anymore like it used to be. but it's still being played a lot. But yeah, people aren't necessarily spending. And to see from now to next year a 40% drop in revenue, man, that's like Destiny 2 level in 2023. So that's huge. That's really going to be pretty challenging for them. But yeah, Apex, it might just be a dying game. EA has said that they're going to continue to support the studio. They're going to continue to support the game, of course. Um, but again, if people aren't buying it, it's still a business model. Okay, it's got to make money. And if it doesn't, stuff has to change there. Okay, we've seen that already throughout the industry. So nobody's fooling anybody. And the next big project that EA is putting out is Madden, NCAA, the next football club, and Battlefield. Like, that's the next big stuff that they're doing. One of the big highlights they did say, which I thought was pretty disgusting, was Veilguard. And it's like, you guys trying to gaslight your investors um, and the press at the earnings call because they called Veilguard a blockbuster. I'm not even kidding. It's like, oh no. Like, if it's a blockbuster, okay, your director for the game doesn't leave BioWare, right? Like, they don't quit and move on to something else. Um, you don't have layoffs with your studio. Uh, Again, they tried tweaking their numbers, but yeah, people were just not interested in the game. It wasn't Dragon Age. Dragon Age of Veilguard just was not a Dragon Age game. Combat was not good. You know, kind of reminiscent of even Suicide Squad, which had purple pimples, and in Veilguard you're popping red ones or orange ones. The combat too was just again not the same style. The storytelling wasn't the same for a lot of people. And then yeah, there was the messaging too inside the game that people also didn't like or enjoy, and the influence that you had as a player in controlling the narrative and getting different results at the end weren't really the case. The trailer that we had looked much more brooding, much more dark, and then the actual gameplay and what we were playing, again, was not what the trailer was. It was more bright, it was more happy. There was less kind of grim things there, and it's just like what is going on? Like that is not what they showed, and you know, whether in part or in whole of all of those issues, this is why the game didn't sell well. That's why the director's gone. And now they're working on Mass Effect 5, which I am super curious about that. Dragon Age is fun and all, but yeah, Mass Effect is my jam. And oh man, if they mess it up, you guys are going to hear it. You guys are going to hear it. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about Marathon. So Marathon has some stolen assets like symbols, logos, art design. This is not good. Anti-Real actually posted, she's an artist herself and basically showing her work versus what's actually in the game. And yeah, it is like copy for copy, pixel for pixel perfect of stolen design. So yeah, that's not good. That is not good. Even some of the colors look pretty close. So yeah, this is a problem. Bungie actually admitted this week, and they actually put out a statement. So let's go ahead and watch.
Or acknowledgement and place them on a it came to our attention, and sorry, I wrote this. I wanted to make sure I get this message right. It came to our attention that an artist who worked on Marathon in the early stages of pre-production
Volume's as high as it
took a
goes.
number of graphic elements from a graphic designer without permission or acknowledgement and placed them on a decal sheet that was then checked in 2020. The decal sheet included icons and text elements. These elements ended up in our alpha build, and there's absolutely no excuse for this oversight, and we are working on and 100% committed to our review process to ensure instances like this don't happen again on Marathon or at Bungie. A few of the things that we've done over the last 24 hours and what we're doing to shore up the review process are as follows. We've reached out to Anti-Real, the artist in question, and followed up to ensure that we do right by this artist. We're auditing all of the previous work by the artist, the internal artist, including the environment decals already in the build, which is part of why we're delaying some of the content we're going to show today. And we're committed to removing anything that is questionably or inappropriately sourced. We're doing a very broad decal audit, and if we locate any other details or elements, we'll make sure that those are eliminated, recreated in-house for sure. Hundreds of artists have worked on this project for years, internally and externally, and we share many influences, including modernism, Swiss typography, 2000s styled vector art, cyberpunk, and of course the original Marathon trilogy. Our style is a result of all of those inspirations. It's also worth noting that none of our external partners who've worked on branding or any part of the visual design of our game were involved with this situation. And lastly, personally, I have a huge amount of respect and admiration for artists working independently, producing, making a living, doing commercial or fine art. And we've worked with many of them. It's one of my favorite parts of the job is to make those connections and create content and collaborate. And so to that extent, I want to send my personal apology to Anti-Real, whose work was used in this case. And I know how unfair this feels, and we're doing everything we can to make this right with her. Her work is fantastic, and we clearly share mutual appreciation for a specific genre of graphic design, and it's very exciting, and I'm excited to have folded that into our style in general. So thanks for listening, and thanks for your patience.
Yeah. So, which by the way, for the whole rest of this, they actually don't show anything. Like, they don't show any gameplay whatsoever. There's nothing. Like, they can't, right? They got to make sure they say it later in the podcast that they have to make sure that everything is absolutely scrubbed. Otherwise, they're liable now that they know, right? And this is a major lawsuit issue for them. So yeah, they got to deal with this as delicately as they can. Excuse me, as if I have hiccups. But yeah, Marathon is already rocky, and this is making it way worse because now it's like, okay, how much of your art design is actually yours? How much of your art design is not like actually ripped off? Is any other creators actually been ripped off? And unfortunately, this is not the first time that Bungie's actually done this. Let me list off some other examples. So we had the Witch Queen trailer for Destiny 2. We also had another Destiny 2 cutscene, where Julian actually came out and said, hey, that's literally my work. Look, showed an example. There's also the Ace of Spades gun that was basically ripped off of a Nerf gun that Nerf had. So they settled that as well. All of these they've actually settled that I'm listing. Also, Tofu Bunny, their concept art for Destiny 1 back in 2012. 2012, like this is crazy. They probably don't work there anymore because Bungie has had so many layoffs since then. But yeah, this is nuts. And then even right now, Destiny 2 Red War is currently in court for plagiarism. It's the same thing. And Bungie has basically asked for dismissal. The judge has, as of this week, said no, that is not going to be happening. The case is going to continue to move forward. And yeah, Bungie is likely to lose on this. Because, again, their biggest evidence is basically whatever's on YouTube because they have sunsetted the Red War DLC and they vaulted it and they don't have access for whatever reason. I don't entirely understand what that means, why they can't have access. Everything is usually backed up, but whatever. They don't have access to it. They don't have any evidence for their case. So, yeah, they're pretty much screwed. And the judge, I think the judge is going to go, of course, with the defendant. I'm not a defense attorney or anything. I have no idea. It's just my guess. But, yeah, it's not looking very good. And now, to actually have this this isn't looking good either. This is another lawsuit just waiting to happen again for the same thing. And while, of course, I don't condone this, I think part of the issue is there's crunch at the company because they keep making these live service games. They keep focusing on these live service elements. And this also means that this problem is not going to go away. So the devs feel the pressure. They want to continue to work there. They want to get the bonus, the perks, whatever. They don't want to be laid off, maybe like some of their others have in the last several years. And so it's crunch time. And the thing that sucks is that a lot of this stuff has come to the attention in just the last 4 years. All of these plagiarisms that they've had. And each one of these they've settled so far. And now they're going to have to settle this one too. And like, look at this guy's face. Like, he's basically the art lead for Marathon. Like, he looks kind of chill, but yeah, he knows. And like the whole rest of the interview, if you want to watch it, um, again, just like he never really lights up. He's not excited. He's just thinking about this because this was like a slap in the face for them. You know, they found out fairly early, in between, and they do this I think once a week, or once every couple of weeks or something. Their stream, they do it fairly regularly. But yeah, people too, they're also not liking this at all. For those of you that can't see, I mean, we have 560 likes and we have 1.6 thousand downvotes. You know, like this is a problem, and this has 33,000 views on it. So yeah, a lot of people are not excited. And again, you know, they keep saying that it's a former employee, that this is not going to be a problem. And it's like, dude, you already have been doing this multiple times in the last several years, ripping off artwork. And something, too, that's really interesting is I also want to mention this. Multiple people within the studio follow Anti-Real. So they know her work. And it's like, you really think something isn't going to sneak in again? Of course, you got to have inspiration, but you can't like immediately rip something off and make it as your own. I mean, this is the issue of what Nintendo is taking Pal World to court for. Now, what Nintendo has figured out, which I've stated on this channel before, is Nintendo can't get them on ripping off anything off of Pokemon because Pal World hasn't ripped anything off. Okay? Everything is heavily inspired, looks very similar, yes, but there are no copies. And so now Nintendo is trying to get them on patents. And so all Pocket Pair has to do is change some of the game mechanics in Pal World. And then again, Nintendo doesn't have a case. And it shows a chink in the armor. But this is plagiarism. This is literally like completely ripping off stuff. And if you want to go search for the pictures yourselves, you can. There's plenty of other things too. And there's a lot of other small channels out there, or smaller channels, I would say, saying that, and some bigger as well, that, hey, Anti-Real should lawyer up and deal with this. And this isn't the first time that she's been ripped off. She's been ripped off, too, by other studios. So, again, why that stuff is out there, I don't know in the first place. There's also a question about the music, because, again, Into or Anti-Real with SoundCloud, you can listen to some of that stuff, and it's like, wow, that's really, really close to some of the music that we've heard so far for Marathon. Like, hopefully the sound audio is also not ripped off. And again, being independent, going independent is challenging. Whether you're Giant Bomb, whether you're buying the publishing rights for a video game like No Rest for the Wicked, or you're finding out that your stuff's getting ripped off by a multi-billion-dollar company for a video game. Yeah, this is just unbelievable. And there are people that have already stated that simply because of this, they will not be buying Marathon. It doesn't matter what the game is like. It doesn't matter how improved it is. If they, quote, fix it, all of that stuff. They are just done. They're not touching this anymore. I think they'll be curious how it is. And again, we've talked about this too on the channel with Marathon, is like, People are more curious about what's actually going on with the game than actually excited for it. And then we take a look at Arc Raiders, which I've played myself. I played the public test too, and man, was that much better put together, more immersive, more exciting. I actually kind of had fun there for a bit. But yeah, I'm not a major extraction shooter guy, so I'm not really going to care at the end of the day, regardless. But like, this just sucks. I mean, the devs at Bungie have a better chance now of losing their job. And that's horrible. And again, this is not the work of just of the majority. Okay, there's the majority of the people there probably putting in heavy work. And the amount of devs they have right now at Bungie are roughly like 800 or like 1,000. And they've been roughly 1,500, 1,700 devs. So they've had a lot of layoffs. Okay, they've had a lot of people leave already. And yeah, maybe it was, of course, somebody that's already left the company. But it's like, man, with Destiny, with Marathon, with even guns for your cosmetics, like stuff keeps getting plagiarized. Like this has got to stop. And this made me think too. It's like if I was in charge of the company, what would I do? It's like why can't we just have it to where you break down the devs at this point into smaller teams so it's easier to track and trace where plagiarism happened or even to spot it. And then if nobody comes forward, you just fire the whole team. Like everybody's gone. And so then you're now also having the rest of the team keeping an eye on everybody else. Is that fair? No. Didn't say it was. But you also can't be running a company that keeps having plagiarism issues because eventually you're not going to have a company anymore. Because when one person does this, it doesn't just kill, it, well, I shouldn't say that necessarily, but if there's anything else going on with the project, this can be the final nail in the coffin for the project and completely kill the project. And will that happen? We'll have to see. But this too, like when you honestly have this happen enough, eventually you can completely kill the company. And yeah, Bungie is not the same anymore. We probably all know that. We've probably all known that for quite some time. Okay, that made Halo, the original Marathon, etc. But again, I don't think majority people really want to see the entire industry burn. I think if it can't be competitive, then any studio, any publisher should burn. And they should get out of there. Because again, they can't be competitive. They can't actually make good products. And, capitalism is not charity. It doesn't work. And it's expensive for somebody else. They just take on the burden to keep them alive when they should be gone, including all of the people that work there. And if you're really good at your job, if you care about your job, you can always find work somewhere else. If you're the reason why something failed, then yeah, there's definitely consequences there. Because again, you can do what you want within a company, just like the guy that plagiarized in this case, possibly multiple people. But also, people can respond to how you live your life, to how you work at a company in this instance. And if you're a plagiarizer, man, good luck. If you're a thief, good luck. If you're causing problems and causing money for a company in any way, that's going to be problematic too. So, of course, there's certain laws out there, but word gets around. Like, yeah, you're not really going to be able to escape this. And unfortunately, this also, too, is not just Bungie's problem. The first Descendant got in trouble for copying stuff from Destiny 2. How ironic. Also, the Star Wars Classic Collection, they were taking mod assets for the original Star Wars Battlefront games. And it's just like, what? And then Aspire is passing that off as their own. Like, that's disgusting. Also, Assassin's Creed Shadows, they were also taking art from artists, that were like banners and symbols. And it's like, you're just, again, plagiarizing stuff. And they had to remove that, but they had actually already made the collector's edition. And they didn't have the time to remake it, and they had already been shipping it out to stuff. So, like, that was out of their hands. So, if you have a collector's edition, you have plagiarized artwork right on your box. That's pretty cool. along with some of the other stuff inside the edition itself. But yeah, this is not an isolated problem. And what I find curious too is this always seems to come. Maybe it's just because they're bigger, and so we don't expect it. But this always seems to come too from like big double A and triple A companies, and it keeps seeming to be happening from the same ones. So there's got to be a way to stop this at some point. Because just slap on the wrist, okay, that's not enough. Apparently, especially for Bungie at this point. I mean, if I was Bungie, we've already lost like half of our devs, and Sony has bought us for like over $3.5 billion, and Destiny's dying. Marathon isn't in great shape, and then we also have Project Gummy Bears, which has now been spun off as LFG. Maybe there were already going to be some more layoffs. Maybe Bungie was already going to be closed, and that's why they're spinning off LFG to work on Project Gummy Bears. But man, this is not making things better. Like I would be pretty worried if I worked anywhere at Bungie. Um, and then too, I got to think Team LFG. Do they have plagiarizers over there? I mean, if I was the head of Team LFG, man, I'd be keeping a really sharp eye on everything. Because if you're a branch off from the company that's known to plagiarize, you don't want that following you at all. Otherwise, your first project's never going to get off the ground if it gets found out. And some people love sleuthing this stuff. Some people, too, when they've been ripped off before, like Anti-Real, they just keep an eye open. And she had an inkling in 2023 when we actually got to see some material, and then it was pretty much confirmed at the end of 24 and going into 25. And she's like, yeah, that's my work. Wow. Like when she literally saw her work in the trailers and stuff. And now it's like they can't even show that. And last we got to see, too, with the website, Anti-Real's stuff is still there on the website. Like, you can see it. So, yeah. It sucks. It sucks. Also, too, with the whole stream, let's talk about the stream since we got it pulled up. Didn't really show, again, didn't show any gameplay because they can't, okay? But they also had audio issues for like the first 15 minutes, which was just crazy. And the guy on the right was actually kicked. I forget his name. But yeah, the guy that actually read the statement, he was actually kicked from the Discord, so he couldn't hear someone else that was actually a part of the stream. They also didn't have a camera for that third guy, which was weird. Well, there were actually two. There was actually one from the dev team, and then there was someone else dealing with the questions. And it's like we couldn't, we could hear them, but we couldn't actually see them talk. And this, too, was also weird because the guy that read the statement for the plagiarism also couldn't hear the guy on the Discord reading the questions. So, like, they had to have this relay system so that he could actually answer the questions. So, like, the whole thing was just really bad. The plagiarism, too, at the very beginning, as you can see on his face, really just set the tone for, like, the rest of the stream for the next hour. And it got better about halfway through. But, yeah, that really just set the tone. And we're ultimately 18 weeks away from launch as of now. And during the podcast here, they're still talking about whether they want to decide things or not instead of actually refining it or tweaking things. They're still trying to figure out communication too, for example, without proximity chat. They're talking about like an emote wheel and stuff. It's just like, oh my word, just put it in the game. Excuse me. It's like this game is rated M. Okay, the kids are not going to be playing this game. This is a rated M game, basically. You're going to have adults playing this. And people are intelligent enough, if they want to mute proximity chat, they can. Just let that be an option. Toggle on, toggle off, okay? People can do that. People don't have to listen to it. People can tweak it in the settings, and they already do already with every other game. But like for your competitor, that's a double A studio, Embark, that's made the finals, making Arc Raiders, and they have proximity chat, and you're still trying to decide 18 weeks away if you're going to have it. It doesn't bode confidence in the project. And especially if the project is all focused on multiplayer, microtransactions, like people, and then too, you're asking for money for this game up front. We don't know how much, but we're kind of assuming $40. It doesn't bode well for the entire thing. It's a mess. Throughout too the whole podcast, they're still talking about the baseline for the game. It's like, dude, the baseline should be completely established at this point. Like there shouldn't be any major decision making with less than 5 months to go. Like this should all be completely figured out. Like this is insane. I mean, there should be focuses on polishes and tweaks right now, not deciding game mechanics. And now, on top of all this, they have to go through and scrub everything they've ever made and replace it with something else. That's going to take time. I can't see how already by like March 23rd, or excuse me, by September 23rd, how this game was going to be successful without a delay. I also don't see how the game already could be successful with a delay, even for a year. Okay, because we look at Suicide Squad, we look at um, Star Wars Outlaws and some other games, and or even Starfield. Like it didn't really matter if it was delayed a year or not. Okay, the game in its design was there, and even with a year delay or slightly over a year, you're not going to be really changing too much. And they have less than 5 months. I don't know how they're going to pull this off, especially when they've already lost hundreds of devs. Their last layoff was 220 devs, just gone. And then the team of LFG, they're gone too. They used to work there. They're now working on something else. There's like 30, 50 of them, something like that. So, yeah, they don't have those devs either. See, ultimately, this just doesn't look good. And then the whole plagiarism thing on top of it, it doesn't look any better. Yeah, I don't know what the heck they're going to do. It's not good. And now there's going to be people that are just solely on the fact that there's plagiarism in the game, that it hasn't launched. They're not going to buy this. They're just going to be like, nope, I'm just going to put my money somewhere else. I was already on the fence, and now I'm off the fence, not on your side, and I'm going to go somewhere else. So, yeah, this is why his face looks like that. I think he knows that. You can just see it in his eye. That this whole project is screwed. Like, they're in so much freaking trouble, dude. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. All right, let's keep going on. So the Arrowhead. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but it's just when it's so horrible, I have to laugh. That's how I survive. Okay, Arrowhead creators of Helldivers 2. So yeah, Arrowhead has been a wonderful studio. Really enjoyed what they've done with Helldivers 2. It's a blast of a game. Well, they're saying that their next project is going to be everywhere, and also in turn saying that they are going to fully fund themselves, and so they don't need PlayStation to fund their game. This also means that they're not going to have the restraints from PlayStation either. So Helldivers 2, they had a messy launch. Okay, it was kind of a mess, but it is a really fun game. They've tweaked a lot of stuff. Their tweaks haven't been perfect, but they've also continued to improve things, to continue to do things. And yeah, it's sold extremely well. They've sold already 15 million copies. Yeah, 15 million. So I took a look at Steam, which is usually the cheaper price tag between all of the platforms. And so the lowest price they've had on Steam is $32. And so if we take 15 million copies times $32, we're looking at $480 million that they've made from this game, just in unit sales. This does not include microtransactions. Like, dang. Yeah, they've made a bunch of money. They've made a ton. And so I'm sure they're sitting pretty. I'm sure they have enough from this success to make their next game. And so that's how they can fund themselves. And they already know probably what they're going to be working on. That's probably being drafted now. Now, this is not going to be Helldivers 3. It's going to be something else. Um, but Arrowhead also has a pretty good player base. They've earned a lot of goodwill and trust from players that have really enjoyed their game. They've also stuck with Helldivers. They have done as much as they can on their side to give players what they want. And a lot of stuff has been passed on to Sony and PlayStation with some of the issues, like the PSN account requirement, which, Sony eventually backed off on their later games to say, yeah, that's not going to be required anymore. And that honestly didn't take very long. But they shouldn't have just stuck. Yeah, they shouldn't have died on that hill to begin with, because yeah, it screwed up Helldivers. Because I feel like Helldivers could have had a lot more sales. They also could have had more copies sold on Xbox, maybe another million, maybe another couple million sales, which would have made them a heck of a lot more money. They also probably would have paid microtransactions too. I know I would have bought it on Xbox. Absolutely. I bought it on Steam instead, because that's where I could play it. So I guess they got my money anyway. But since I bought it on Steam, I didn't want to buy any microtransactions. And if I had bought it on Xbox, I probably would have, because Xbox is my main, right? And you're more likely to spend on your main platform than on your secondary or tertiary. So, but yeah, they know deep down. So does the community, that ultimately PlayStation was in the way for some stuff, that created some friction and some issues, and ultimately too translating into sales. And so Arrowhead is happy to announce that they're going to make their own project by themselves. They're going to be completely funding, and that's going to be great. So yeah, and they want to put their next game everywhere. This might also be able to be put on the Switch too, depending on what it is. How they can tweak it, because yeah, the Switch 2 has DLSS, which makes it fairly powerful. Some of the games that they have look pretty good, but we'll have to see at launch how it handles Elden Ring, how it handles Cyberpunk, how it handles, WWE and Borderlands 4 and Dusk Bloods and all of these other games. It'll be interesting to see how they actually run. So apparently Valve was hacked, or was it? There was an account on the dark web having tons of old text messages, like tens of millions. Okay, also phone numbers and these text messages had the F2A codes, and this was all put on the dark web for basically $5,000. Valve responded though, saying that they checked and nothing of theirs was actually compromised for their system, and it's because all of this was hacked through a third party, Trilio. And so it's like, well, okay, well that doesn't make Trilio look very good. But Valve was also saying that Valve doesn't use Trilio. Instead, they have their own app for two-factor authentication called Steam Guard. And also, all of those texts are old, and so none of those codes are valid because they're only good for 15 minutes. And we all know that for those that have two-factor authentication anyway. And so ultimately, there's no risk for this hack to Valve or any of the consumers. And it was being shoved out there pretty quickly that, oh, hey, 89 million users on Steam are at risk, and that is completely incorrect. 0 is the correct number, are at risk. And yeah, I imagine with how long Valve has been around, I imagine too with how many monthly active users that they have, which is like 135 million. Yeah, I imagine they're pretty serious about their security. And your best security is all done through yourself. Because yeah, the way to get in is through third-party stuff. But yeah, they're like, yeah, we have a closed system, and yeah, that's not going to be an issue. They don't have any breach. It wasn't them, and the stuff that was taken, it's not a threat. So yeah, there's nothing to worry about. It's still always good to change your password anyway. It's still good to take whatever security measures you can on your end with everything. But yeah, Valve wasn't hacked. So the people that ran with this, unfortunately, they were incorrect. Let's talk about Microsoft. Well, more layoffs. Good gravy. The last layoff bit that we had was 10,000. This is about roughly 6,700. This is again globally. The majority are actually going to be in Washington State in the USA, and this is roughly almost 2,000 layoffs just at the Redmond HQ in Washington. The rest of the layoffs will be across teams, divisions, and geographies all over the place, and the focus is ultimately to reduce management positions. Still, some non management is going to be affected, but yeah, the majority is to reduce as much as they can to make it more affordable, to make it more lean, and this is part of their major restructuring plan that they have at Microsoft. So, again, you never lay off everybody all at once, you never take the L all at once, you space it out. This is why, too, we keep seeing canceled games from certain publishers not all at one time, but spaced out over months or over quarters. You'll notice we only get one cancellation, roughly, maybe two per quarter. And again, that's so that they can space it out and make their numbers look good, especially if they're a publicly traded company, of course. But yeah, this just sucks for the layoffs. This is roughly 3% of what they have. So doing the actual math, this is 2.9% of their current, or I guess used to be, amount of employees. They still have 224,000 employees as of today globally. So they have a ton still. But yeah, it just sucks getting laid off because the market's getting worse out there. Okay. And I've been saying too that, yeah, I expect the layoffs to basically be through 2026. Um, and I even keep moving that year a little bit. But, in 2020, well, at the beginning of 24, I was still thinking through 25 we were going to have layoffs. And I mean, we're toward the end of May, and here we are. And yeah, this is just awful. And part of this too is just because games take a long time to be made. Okay, there's lag effect. There's of months or even years for some of this stuff. And we also had a whole bunch of stimulus. I know I bring this up a lot, but it's one of the biggest components to all of this. We had a lot of stimulus, and people spent that money. The companies saw the growth, and they got excited and hired a whole bunch of people because they had trouble getting people to begin with during COVID because people couldn't work, people were getting sick. I know my company too. We were struggling to even just stay running every day because we couldn't get enough people to actually be present. So, per the law of our state. And yeah, it was a frustrating mess. So yeah, these companies they want to hold on to their labor as much as they can, but the writing's on the wall, and so these layoffs are happening. But yeah, we've had even layoffs at Nintendo. I think kind of in the middle of 2024, but that quickly got superseded by other news and stuff, and so not a lot of people know that. But yeah, even Nintendo's had layoffs, which is kind of surprising because they're an extremely efficient company. But they're not that way for no reason, right? And if Nintendo's had some layoffs, so has everybody else. And ultimately, what we're seeing right now is there's just not enough money to keep it all going. So people are going to be laid off. If things can be done cheaper, they will. AI is also part of this issue too. I even see just outside of gaming, but I just see a lot more ads that are AI generated. It's not even people in their cars anymore trying to sell you soap or something, or sell you a candy bar or sell you pizza. It's now just like straight AI generated commercials. Uh, and I've seen more this month than any month prior. So, yeah, this is really kind of crazy. This is getting to be pretty real. And I know of a few people that have been affected by the layoffs too in different industries, including art and art design and stuff. And again, they basically got replaced by AI. So yeah, that is a real thing, regardless of what you want to believe personally. Um, I know of a couple of artists that have actually lost their job working white collar that basically got replaced by a computer. And we can complain about the layoffs, we can complain about how broke we are, we can complain about how hard life is and how sucky people are and whatever, but I think it's better to use our energy to be a part of the change. I just found out one of my good friends, his dad has cancer. And, I told him, it's like, hey, we have Father's Day coming up. Use it well. And it's the same to any of you guys listening. Whatever you have going in your life, work on finding a solution. It's easy to be depressed. It's easy to be bummed out, to stay in bed, to game all day, uh, to not try to find a solution because it does take work and that takes energy. But your future isn't better for it. And ultimately, neither are you. And two, anyone else that you engage with. So pull your bootstraps up, get your ass out of bed, and start working on the problems that you have in your life. And start making your life better because ultimately it's up to you. No one's going to do it for you. Nobody's coming. And man, when I figured that out at my younger age, oh my gosh, that did change my life. It was something. But it's the same too with people that are having layoffs, that are losing their job, that are struggling having work. Don't quit. Okay? You and your future depend on what you do today. And eventually, if you do something long enough, if you try long enough, if you try enough doors, there will be one that will open. And that's where you should keep your hope. Because ultimately, the people that lose the most are the ones that quit. And, sometimes there's more than one way to skin a cat, of course. So it doesn't mean you should keep trying to open the same door all the time. But there isn't one particularly just one door to happiness, to satisfaction in your life. Okay? There's multiple ways to get there. There's certain principles that you still have to follow. Yes. But that doesn't mean that it has to be done exactly the same way for everybody else. Because one, everybody's different. And two, everyone also has different circumstances and different stages of life. So yeah, work on your future, folks. It's important. Let's talk about our last piece of news. So the founder of Haven Studios, this is also under Sony. Yeah, big L for Sony this week. Jade, yeah, the founder, has actually left the studio. And this really doesn't bode well because there isn't any word at all on what's going on. Not from her, not from any of the devs, not from Sony. Nobody is saying anything. So it's like, okay, well, why did she leave? Because if you look at her record, maybe it's not even her problem or her fault. I'm not saying that. It's just that when she leaves a studio or she leaves a project, it does not bode well for the project. And she's worked on a lot of stuff. She's like she worked on Unity. She worked on Star Wars 1313, which never came out, unfortunately. She worked on Stadia, which was another one that didn't work out well, unfortunately. But yeah, she's just caught a lot of L's lately, and here's another one. And it's like, man, when you've even started your own studio and now that also doesn't work, grief. I think of the guy that started Striking Distance, and that got, and that got a partnership with Crafton for publishing for Callisto Protocol. And he was like, the guy that made Dead Space. And boy, after losing his own studio and just having that mess, he quit. And I wonder if she's kind of doing the same thing. But we can assume, since there's also been a delay for Fair Games, which is what Haven Studios is making. They're making Fair Games. I imagine too that this also isn't going to be. Yeah, I don't think it bodes very well for the game at all. And let's go ahead and watch the trailer, and you guys will see exactly what I mean here. They even changed their name too, which is pretty hilarious. And it's not Fair Games with the $ anymore. But yeah, this is a year ago. And let's mute this, but I'll just let this play and let you guys watch. But yeah, this isn't Fair Games anymore. They've now replaced the $ with an actual letter S. And yeah, this is going to be super curious what's going to happen. I really think like the game is maybe going to be canceled or There's going to be layoffs at the studio. Maybe they're still going to try to actually put this out. Um, but yeah, we found out too that there was also a playtest, like a local playtest for the game. And again, that went very, very poorly. And then, 2, 3 weeks later, Jade, the founder, leaves. And again, Sony hasn't said why. The devs are worried about their jobs. They're still working on this. But yeah, as we're watching the trailer, it's just like, man, we just have another like team of three kind of like extraction shooter ish type of PvP thing, trying to extract stuff. It kind of looks like maybe the finals or like some other games that we've had out there. But again, like, this is, this is not great. And, man, I just want to say, like, the whole live service push that they've had at Sony has just been absolute failure so far. Like, they have the only successful project I think that they've had is really Helldivers. And that's not even their game. And there's still some live service games that are supposed to be coming. Okay, this is one of them. Um, yeah, but like looking at the trailer, like it does not look great, right? And again, this is a year ago, and now we're going to be getting 2026 is when this has been delayed, probably sometime in the first half of 2026. So we got a year from now. And again, the game design is what it is. There's not really much they can change there. But yeah, this is awful. And I just wonder exactly how they're going to pull it all off. Because again, it's like we could have another failed live service game, which there's been a ton of those this decade, and it happens to be at Sony again, and they already have Marathon, which is going sour, and Arrowhead that made Helldivers is like, look, we're not going to partner with Sony this time. We're going to go independent. So Sony's going to lose again some of that influence and some of that money. Arrowhead, their next project is, of course, still going to be on PlayStation along with all the other platforms. But Arrowhead is doing what's best for themselves, not what's best for Sony this time. But yeah, and I wonder what Jade is going to do next. I mean, she's not old. She has worked on a lot of projects, but she's not at like retirement, especially if she, whether her fault or not, keeps being a part of projects that are failing. And then now we got another one, and she's not saying anything. Sony's not saying anything. Like, if I was at Haven, I'd be freaking out. I'd be updating my resume. Same with Marathon, too. Good gravy. Same, too, if I was at Ubisoft and I wasn't a part of the new subsidiary with Tencent. Like, oh, man. Yeah. It's painful out there for video games. We have some really good ones, but yeah, the AAA space, the big publishers, they're just having problems. And I would absolutely laugh my butt off if Fair Games came out around the same time as GTA 6. Because that's just going to be a black hole. And a lot of people are going to be excited for that. Yeah, the companies that are putting out games soon probably going to be pushing to get it out released this year before Thanksgiving. That would be my guess. They still have Call of Duty to contend with. But again, if they're a different genre, they probably don't have to worry about Call of Duty players going somewhere else. So, yeah, that was the news this week. It was a lot, and it was a little jumpy and kind of all over the place, and I apologize for that. We do the best we can here, me, myself, and I. But yeah, if you enjoy the content, thanks for watching. You can always like, sub, all that jazz. You can always follow me at Gaming Garbage 22 over at YouTube. You can also follow me over at Twitch as well. And also, don't forget our playlists. We do a lot here than just gaming news. There's playthroughs, there's gaming reviews, there's initial looks. There's talking about deep dives in the industry for called States of Gaming. And yeah, those playlists are all there for you. So you can poke around and see what's there. And yeah, if I've earned it, go ahead and sub. I appreciate that. So with that, folks, hopefully you guys are doing well. We'll see you guys on the next one.